Alright guys, hope you're all keeping safe. Last Wednesday as usual I covered State of the Game in my recap video. Here the devs talked about TU10.1, which is due to release next Tuesday the 21st of July, and some of the things that will be addressed, like an increase in the minimum loot power and number of max rolls, huge changes to the hive, changes to help fix some of the PvP issues, and more. In that video, as with all of my news videos, I pretty much gave you all of the information, but today I wanted to give you my thoughts on those changes, so we're going to look over them in a bit more detail. If you enjoy this one, drop a like below, subscribe to never miss a video, and let's begin. So first and foremost, in my opinion, are the changes coming to loot. I feel like we say that every couple of weeks at this point. The devs provided 3 screenshots showing pre-TU10, TU10 in the live game, and then what's planned for TU10.1. The first one here is pre-TU10, and what they said was before title update 10, bad rolls had a fairly high chance of dropping, and high quality loot had a low chance to drop. As you can see with the graph, if the vertical axis went up to 100%, it was almost guaranteed that you'd get a bad roll almost all of the time. And this explains why everyone was complaining about the really bad loot prior to TU10, and this is what the devs wanted to fix with that update. Now along comes TU10, and the devs did a few things. They adjusted the drop chances so that there are fewer rolls at the minimum quality. That's the yellow area on this graph. They made it so the highest chance fell at about 60% quality, and that's the green area, but you also have a lower chance to get max rolled items, and that's the red area compared to pre-TU10. What this meant was that while the average loot was better, again the green area on the graph, you had a lower chance to get the max kind of god rolls than before, or certainly loot quality at around 90% and above. Now with TU10.1, the devs are again looking to change this graph to really make loot feel more rewarding. With TU10.1, the devs are increasing the minimum rolls, so the overall loot quality is going to be better. And you can see this on the graph as the yellow shows where the minimum rolls has been removed. So looking at this graph, the minimum roll will now be about 60%. On top of that, there will be a better chance that you get the maxed out rolls, and you can see this with the little green space towards the end of the horizontal axis. And then the majority of drops are now going to fall between 60 to 80% quality based on the graph, which is better than before, and you will likely see max rolled items more often. This will also apply to the Dark Zone, and the devs confirm that cache loot is going to be getting a buff as well, with field proficiency and DZ caches moving up to heroic loot from what it is in the live game, which is challenging scaled loot, and then clan caches moving up to legendary quality from the live game, which is currently set at heroic. In terms of rainbow loot, the devs said they are completely random and they can't control that at the moment, but they are looking at that for title update 11. There's some changes they can make to deal with that, and I guess we'll hear more about that in the near future. Now personally, I enjoy these changes more when they actually give us some real data. So sometimes they come on to State of the Game and they just say we're going to do this, that and the other, and that's it. But these graphs help me anyway to understand what's going on, and I'm hopeful that these TU10.1 changes are going to translate to less disappointment and better quality loot drops than the live game, because as you guys have seen with videos I've done before, being on heroic and getting a loot drop, a minimum loot drop of about 50% or even lower that I've seen sometimes, is really disheartening. And with this graph in mind, it's going to be around 60% as a minimum right now, which is just better. You know, I specifically have also got an issue with rainbow loot, as most of you guys, so hopefully they'll fix that. But overall, you know, this is great news. Maybe the devs could discuss maybe mod quality next, because I've literally got one max rolled mod, and it was a purple mod as well, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys are in the same boat about that, so maybe that's something they can focus on in the future. Moving on, and 2 huge changes are coming with TU10.1 for the hive, specifically the booster and the revive hive, although the devs said other changes are coming to all the hive variants as well. One of the biggest annoyances for some time now, and this happened to my squad in a raid, it's happened numerous times, was the revive hive cooldown. And this is because with 4 charges taking 240 seconds each, you'd have to wait 16 minutes before you could change a skill at skill tier 0. And they really wanted to improve this experience. As someone who plays as a solo player as well, this was quite frustrating. Now, in order for them to improve this, the devs said they're going to be reducing the number of charges at level 0 from 4 to just 1, and reducing the recharge time from 240 seconds to 180 seconds, so it's only going to be 3 minutes per charge. This means you will only need to wait for 3 minutes to change the skill in TU10.1 instead of 16 minutes, which again is a really great change if you're at obviously skill tier 0. Is there a better solution out there? I don't know, but for now this is actually a great way to fix this problem. The effect this has though means you are going to still be able to revive yourself or one teammate, but you're not going to be able to revive the whole squad or 4 members with a level 0 revive hive. Something you can do in the live game now. So if there's a squad of 4, then you can be a skill tier 0 and use a revive hive on everyone. That's not going to be the case with TU10.1. With this update, you will get 1 additional charge per skill tier. So at skill tier 6, you're going to be able to revive 7 players, which is essentially your whole raid squad, but you're obviously at skill tier 0. You're just going to get that 1 charge, and that's basically just going to be either for you or for one teammate, however you decide to use it. Now, this does make sense. The devs said it didn't make much sense that a skill tier 0 could revive 3 players. And whilst I'd never actually thought of that before, I kind of just because it was just something that was in the game and it was benefiting us as the players rather than being a detriment to us, it does make sense. So, yeah, problem fixed, but this is a nerf to the revive hive, which I don't like, but I'm okay with this. It makes sense on paper for me. For the booster hive, the devs want to go in a new direction and change its functionality to somewhat kind of much closer to the immune station from the Division, albeit not quite the same or not nearly as powerful. So in the live game, the booster hive increases weapon damage, weapon handling and melee damage by 10% at skill tier 0, and it gains 1% for every skill tier. Now, I don't think many people knew about the 10% melee damage, myself included, but it doesn't really matter too much because 10% melee damage in the current game's climate is really not a lot. Now with TU10.1, the booster hive is going to keep weapon handling and it's going to keep melee damage, but it is going to lose the weapon damage component, and instead this is going to be replaced by hazard protection. Now the devs confirmed that at skill tier 0 you're going to gain 20% hazard protection, 20% weapon handling and 20% melee damage. And then at skill tier 6, you're going to gain 60% hazard protection, weapon handling, and melee damage. Now that's a huge increase. So just weapon handling alone, 60%. They actually said this could give you somewhat of like about 15% extra DPS because your reload time is being reduced drastically. Your accuracy and stability is being increased drastically, so you're likely to hit more bullets. In respect to melee damage, 60% melee damage could be a determining factor on whether a build is okay or actually quite strong, so that's good. Of course, the booster hive will not give you immunity with that 60% hazard protection, and it does not cleanse you of status effects, but it should give the booster hive a new purpose. The devs confirmed with mods you could get hazard protection up to 90%, and that's without the need for any of this coming from attributes. So importantly, this is going to apply to both PvP and PvE. News I think a lot of PvP players are going to be happy about. And personally, I really like this change. For the most part, I've seen people only really use the booster hive for Buddy and Lucy in Dark Hours when they're doing kind of like speed runs through that. Outside of that, I don't see this being used at all. And this change should encourage players to use this more often. I think it could become a staple in a lot of builds. Importantly, it puts the booster hive back on the table, a table that all skills need to take a seat at. So overall, I think this is a good change. Alright, so moving on, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I play PvP because I don't. But the devs appear to be making further changes with TU10.1 to help with some of the issues. Firstly, all deployed skills will now take 4 times more damage from hostile players, so it should make it a lot easier to shoot down those skills. This, I believe, is a good change because the times I have played PvP, skills like the striker drone were sometimes particularly difficult to even hit due to their kind of fast turning speed and small hitbox, especially on console. With this change in mind though, the devs have increased the striker drone damage by 38%, being more comparable with the turret in terms of damage. No idea whether or not this will be good or bad until it's been tested, and I won't be testing it, so I'm going to have to wait to see what you guys do or what I see on in the forums and stuff after TU10.1. Another change which I think will be really positive is to the Firestarter Chem launcher. The explosive damage is being lowered by 50% in PvP because Firestarter, it ignores cover, you have many charges on a high skill tier build, and it does a hell of a lot of damage. This should make it still useful, but less of a crutch than in the live game, less of kind of a meta skill. The devs did address probably the biggest thing that I'm seeing about PvP right now, and that's the Riot foam Chem launcher. This actually reminds me of the shock turret from the Division, except here it requires a little more skill because it has to be manually used and it's not automatic like the shock turret. Plus, there is a mechanic to actually get out of that ensnare. You know, it's nowhere near as bad as the shock turret, but it does hold you in place for a period of time, and I think that's what's so frustrating about it. The devs did address this, saying they hope the booster hive will help a little with this problem because hazard protection will lower the time you are stuck in the Riot foam, and they are still discussing if the base ensnare duration should be lowered. Personally, any skill that locks you in position for kind of any period of time, it's just really frustrating. But the devs have said the removal of this skill would basically encourage comments about the chicken dance. That's what we'll start hearing about next, is that the chicken dance is becoming prevalent. It's kind of a catch-22 really. If you're a PvP player, let me know what you think in the comments. Would you prefer Riot foam, or would you prefer chicken dancing? The last change we know about so far was to the Foundry Boardwalk gear set. The devs said the 3-piece bonus, which is 3% armor regeneration in the live game, is a bit too generous in keeping players alive, so they're going to be reducing this to 1% armor regen. The Foundry Boardwalk focuses on using a shield, and that is why the 3-piece bonus is being reduced to 1% armor regeneration, but the shield health is being increased by 50% with the 3-piece bonus as well. So what you lose in self-preservation without a shield, you gain when you use a shield. Also, when you have 3 pieces of Foundry Boardwalk equipped, you basically gain a skill tier for your shield with the 50% shield health bonus. Now, on paper, you know, this seems like the right idea. Foundry Boardwalk is meant to be used with a shield, so it makes sense that you get the most benefit whilst using a shield. Personally, I've not played enough with Foundry Boardwalk at this point to know how much of an effect this is going to have. 3% armor regeneration on its own doesn't seem all that much, but when you combine it with attributes, I can see why it could become too strong. Mainly the devs made this change though to put the Foundry Boardwalk back to using the shield rather than just, like I said before, being self-preservation. Until players get to actually test this change though, it's hard to know whether this is going to be a good one or not. So that's it for today's video. This is of course not all of the changes coming with TU10.1, and I will be covering the patch notes when they go live next Tuesday. Make sure you've got notifications turned on so you don't miss that one. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next one next week. Epic out.